yeah, I had it all
Okay,
printed out.
so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
looked at that?
Yeah.
I mean, just talking about like, what we're looking for here is this connected fluidity down to the top. So I think that's the biggest portion.
Okay.
But do you see what I'm saying, where you can connect that through your base notes, looking through your, again, this level, I thought this level and your foreground level were both very good.
Okay.
The one thing in your foreground level that's
Mhm.
kind of missing is the chromatic descent from the G to the E.
Right.
Through the F sharp, the F.
Okay.
You know, and you might put that in like black note heads, like filled in note heads in parentheses, as just like separated unbeaten groups, just to show that there is that motion downward. Because I missed that, you know.
Nice.
And I think it's really important if if we think about what Ford discusses that Shanker looks at as important, it's the contrapuntal lines, and that's a big part of it.
Right. Okay.
You know, does that make sense?
Yes.
I think it was a good start, and really, I think these two ones were quite good. You just have
Too busy.
Yeah,
Too much going on
too much.
there.
And you know, it could be one of those things, you know, when we looked at the ones that I brought in the book, they weren't just 3 levels, they were
4.
4.
Yeah.
And so maybe you need to go one more level.
Maybe.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I tried looking at different examples. I think that what
And
kind
also
of
remember
confused
that
me a little.
what notes you have as the unity
Mhm.
coming down should be connected with B. Okay, so that,
Right. Yeah.
we'll look at the bottom row, right? At this point, they should be connected like this.
Right.
He does have them like in this way background.
Mhm.
So again, maybe you need to get to this one more step back. You almost have like, this could be maybe this level, and although this almost looks like, level 2.
Almost that, yeah.
And you just keep getting backwards.
I see.
Okay. But you
But
see,
for
it's
this
all
class,
some linear descent.
we're just gonna do the 3, like the background cover. That's not.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I set it up. That was,
I see.
that was the one that was discussed in the 4-hour program
Yeah,
that we had,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? But certainly, if you wanted to add one to that, add one to it. I mean, and also remember, it was a good introduction to the whole concept.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're not, we could easily spend a whole semester when we're doing that, we get much deeper into like how we start to use the But I really think it's a good first attempt, and I hope that maybe generate like a different way of thinking about the piece that you would have previously. On that one. Oh yeah, just things like, if you're gonna see this as a passing tone, like the harmonies 1, maybe it's better to just leave that E as a half note, and then what you're really saying is E, C, A. Not necessarily that going through it. If I was gonna break it down to that level.
That was with other measure. That was for measure, question number 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or if you're putting a note in there, maybe you're really seeing.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see what you mean.
Like that, okay. And this is just a check, but it's good to see the pivot chord there. I just put that up, the interesting thing is if you actually see this place to that octave, it's like.
Yeah, we did talk about that
Yeah,
last time.
which is, and it's just, same thing with your octave displacement to show it to the F. Nothing wrong with what you did, just another thought, really.
I see.
Well, yeah, it's circle. Don't put the X over.
Okay, I think that's a habit from being at like previous school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Circle, here, circle, here.
Circle the note head?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, circle the note head. That's pretty standard.
I don't know what it is. No, I don't know. I thought I saw like articles and stuff like that too, like that. Maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what time period they were from, it might have been easier at one time to put an X over it.
Possibly.
But in general,
Yeah.
we would normally circle.
Okay.
Okay?
Alright, so this is for today.
Yeah, that's for.
You know what's funny, because I tried doing the homework before I read the article for this week, and then I actually picked up the dictionary, the first one, as the
really?
total ambiguity, because I'm currently playing that right now.
Okay.
And then the
Oh, right, and then you were like, oh, I
I
can't
was like,
get this in.
I can't hand that in. Okay.
Oh, good. Well, you found another one.
That's the David's book,
That's the-
and
yeah.
then that's the list piece. I thought it in the middle especially. So that one's,
So more of like a localized ambiguity.
yeah, I don't know if that's a fine example or not, but Maybe
So
I need
just-
to explain a little.
Yeah, like especially if there's some part in the middle that you want to particularly point out. It would have been good to particularly point that part
Right.
out. Right, because I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I can look through the piece and maybe find something, but I don't know what you would, what's my. If you want to add it in an email,
Yes, definitely. Okay. And what's the homework for next week?
it'll be posted.
Oh, okay, because I thought she just said pick up the homework or something like that. But yeah.
Oh, no, pick up the, this package. I'm sure I have it. Hold on a second. It's spread out everywhere. Oh, here we go.
No, it's good. It's good. Thank you.
Okay, just not quite, just now. Okay. And third, this is like at 8 in the master class. There's a couple.
Yeah, do what you want.
She already had it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Is it the jackknife call? Yeah, take it.
So you're going to join us today for this soft alley? Been watching.
I went over to Michael's house last night and he just watched a horror watching. We watched the Conjuring and Saw, but he started it out at like Saw 6. So I was like, this is the acting was so bad.
It is terrible.
It was so bad.
But we started watching Saw on Halloween, and when I purchased it on iTunes, it was a package. You get like all 7 movies for $30. All right, it's like you're buying a ticket to see the Ring Cycle, and if you just go for one night, you're not getting the full experience, right?
Yeah.
So you just have to spare
But I've never seen anything that. I never saw any of those.
Yes.
Wow, okay. I'm looking forward to leaving here and emailing my friend. Guess what I heard? Okay.
I'm just saying, you know, if you want your full price.
I feel that I was on a flight back from Istanbul, and I sat in a chair and watched all 3 Godfathers. You know, and I sat through that third one
That's the worst.
just because I was going to do it.
You're there.
The decision was made. You know. All right. So as we pull back in, we saw the first 4 chords, and we have this very open, hollow sound coming particularly from. We have a lot of chords. The outer 2 chords are simply just fifths, right? Which, I mean, by definition, is that hollow, empty sound. The inner 2 chords are simply just thirds, and they might have a little bit more harmonic direction to them in that sense, possibly a little less in some ways. We were left kind of guessing particularly about the 3rd chord of the series. As we look in, as the voice comes in the second 4 measures, is any of that mystery cleared up in any way? Oops, I didn't mean for that to be not clear. No fiddle, please. What about that?
Yeah, outlines it.
Right, that's the first instance we do. We get the B added in, and we actually outline the 1 chord, which may help us define that 2nd chord. Now, I will say, if we're going to get a bit of tonic in there, the 16th note ain't much, right? So we don't get much of it, but it starts to get defined just a little bit as the 1/6. rather than the possibility of kind of this ambiguous 3, we do get that one mystery kind of filled in for us, as it were. So I'll kind of, maybe I'll add a little B in the circle. Right? It's there. Maybe we really do have the 1/6 this time. Besides that, look at this vocal line. You know, we talked a lot about the piano part, the starkness of the piano part. F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, D, B, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp. G is an upper very quick upper neighbor to the F sharp, E, D, C sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, F sharp, A, G, F sharp. It's a whole lot of F sharp, right? It's really just like, it's right there on the F sharp, sometimes just kind of like dancing around the F sharp, but essentially just setting on that tone. And if we take a look at our original chords, that's the one and the only thing that was there the entire time, right? Was that F sharp. Everything else kind of just essentially dances around it. And the interesting thing is, what ends up dancing around it, we pointed out earlier, said, what is there about the piano part? And we played this ostinato. What it is essentially that F sharp with that ostinato going around, right? That's what's there. And then this vocal part. Disagree, right? I mean, this measure still is the 9th, and 9. It's almost like one of those things that we would say, like, hey, you introduce motion, keep motion going, don't stop motion, and I mean, it just sits there, and that's what makes you feel the weight of the moment so much that we finally get something, and then it sits. Really, really, quite something. As we move on. What are our changes? Yeah, the A natural comes in, right? It makes quite a big change here. It's the one change in the ostinato that we've had. And now, we still seem to, arguably have our 5/6, this time being the minor 5/6. But really does point towards a bit of a change, right? Because we get that A and F sharp. Once we get the A and the F sharp in there, we might still be locally hearing it. All of a sudden, we have this, what seems to be the minor 5/6, but it's the missing third that would be from this chord where we see it as that 3, right? As that major 3. So again, it's kind of like, it's all there, but it's kind of like twisting around in this very slow way. And then what do we get in the following measure? We get the 3, the first full chord, the first full triad, with the exception of if we count that B, right? Which that B certainly was there, but not in the piano, not stated explicitly as a 3-note chord, 3-note sonority. We actually get the 3 chord, which again could be, is this the 5/6? Is this beginning? I hear it as the minor 5/6, and yet it's moving in a really kind of a different way. And it takes the time we kind of have the C sharp, F sharp. You almost get melodically this fifth bass relationship, the C sharp up to this F sharp that we've been floating around, and then the piano kind of reiterates the F sharp, reiterates that F sharp in the gap. It's so much F sharp, and then we get this 1 D major chord, again, still sitting around the F sharp, which finally becomes the major minor 7, which we would maybe rightfully signify as 5,
4, 2.
5 with some numbers after it. What chord tone is in the bass? C sharp. So it's a 5.
4-3.
4-3. Thank you. I remember those. And he pulls this upward. Now it's really interesting. Just one of the beautiful moments of this, the 5-4-3 is extended. We still have that 5 sonority. We've got the A sharp. The A sharp gets locally reiterated right here, and then we get this descending line off of the A natural above it, which is really, there's so much tension. There, it's a great sound. It's what would maybe nowadays be referred to as a blue note. Right? Sorry, I had the G sharp there, but you get that above the A sharp. Really wonderful sound coming from the A natural, which again, can now probably be nicely referred to as a blue note. All right, so that comes into the F sharp, and again, we kind of settle, although it's a dominant sonority, we settled there on that F sharp dominant sonority for a little while, and then we return back to our 1. And I'll go ahead and put 1 minor, but again, it is the hollow state of the 1 minor. We have no D, we just have the B in the F sharp. Again, we're back to what was our original 5-6. Now with that G natural above it. So now we have that A sharp, the G natural above, just pulling down, really great sound. And then again, back to our, what seems to be our original statement, but we still get the B at the end of the line. Actually, just a little bit more weight on the B, right? Instead of being the 16th note, is now the 8th note. You could chalk that up to the text, or you could say that he's giving us just a little bit more of it, but maybe enough that we can kind of just lay the 1-6 in there. And again, we have this shell of a 5-6-4, no A sharp to speak of. We seem to be back to our empty shell of the 1 here, but at the end of the bar we do get the D. So we are starting to get a little bit more of that full information kind of coming at us as things come to light. Where did I have my text here? Okay. And we're comparing down. This is kind of getting into the end of the second line. My sweet one lived in this house. The 1 there, and then again we see that 5 chord in its minor state. What we would guess, we get the A natural there, and again into the clear 3. Clearly stated. Again, we're getting a little bit more of a turn above. Kind of keeps going. 5-4-3. That 5-4-3 again with the A natural in there. You can almost kind of hear the sharp 9 against. Great sound. Pulls down. Let's see here. As we pull in, we start to get the setting of the next stanza. So there's the small break that separates the setting of the next stanza. And what is the major difference at the beginning of this second stanza? The D, right? There's no longer any question. It's not like the D is just sneaking in at the end of the bar like it did here. It's very, very direct, right? There's no question. The voice is now moved up. And again, that's why we're going to look at this. It is through composed. It was an F sharp the first time around, and now it is the D. It is the defining interval of that sonority. The piano still has that hollowness. The voice kind of fits into it this time. And now he's no longer talking about the street and the house and the avenues and the his sweet one has left the city long ago and the house is still there. Now it's a man is standing there. And that's where we get this clarity of the D. Something to think about. What we might now still be clearly hearing, maybe even more so clearly hearing, as our 5/6, and this time even more definitively into the 1/6, right? Look where the B enters now. First of all, we come up to it. It sits on it. It's reiterated 3 times. The first time we had it, it was at low 16th. Then we had it for an 8th. And now in that same chord, we've got it for half the bar. So it's almost like the sensation of that B minor is becoming more definitive as we move in. Here, we get to another big change right here. What would be the major change at this point?
Little A sharp.
That A sharp, right? This is our 5/6/4 that was never clearly defined as the 5/6/4 because it never had its third. And this is the first time it gets its third. So again, if we're going through and we're analyzing the piece and thinking about the piece, it's an important change, and it's a change we want to note and think about. All right? And again, now this is where we were talking about the intensity of it, right? Let's see where we're at. And powerfully wringing his hands in torment. We're still kind of coming through our same ostinato. Our piano chord is still the same. It's that hollow shell of a B, except this time we have the high D, and the D's there the entire time, right? And it's there, and it's high, and it's clear. There's no doubt about what this is. Yet we still move to what would be the minor 5/6. Yet again, the minor 5/6 is really more clearly defined. Well, interestingly, more clearly defined. It's more clearly defined because we get the C there, the C sharp there. And yet the first thing that happens on the downbeat is the D that could make it. We said, boy, when we just have, when we just have the A and the D, and that A sharp turns into an A, we have the F sharp and the A. It's, well, yeah, it could be the 5/6. It could also be part of the 3 chord. And here you actually have both notes. But I would say the settling down to the C sharp would lead us into the D seems to be acting a bit more as a suspension. So I think the 5/6 is a pretty safe note there. Again, moving into the 3, and this time it's very, very intense. That F sharp is certainly the highest thing by far that we've had. Now we've actually moved up an octave from the opening stanza and moved up to it pretty quickly. One thing that you might want to note, if I'm doing an analysis, the first stanza was almost completely F sharp, right? If I go back and right, we're doing a Roman numeral analysis to talk about the ambiguity. Let's backtrack a little bit and start thinking about some of our melodic analysis. The melodic analysis, if I'm going to do a reduction of the first stanza, it's pretty much a big fat F sharp. Right? Maybe I start to put some small ornaments around it, but I basically got an F sharp. Look at what the second stanza does. D, F sharp, B, D, F sharp. It slowly climbed up and outlined the tonic triad. So this clarity that we've talked about coming into the harmonic aspect of it, it's actually being clearly defined in the melody. So, here's a nice spot where we can start to combine several of our analysis models and start to see where they come together. This is clearly moving upwards into this F sharp, outlining the tonic triad from that system. So we arrive at the F sharp. We arrive at the top of it, and this is where our 5-4-3 has been. Do we get our 5-4-3? This chord is where our 5-4-3 has been.
No.
What is it now?
A German, French.
French.
Yeah.
French augmented 6. You're not done. key are we in? B minor. I agree. Is that a French 6 in B minor?
So 4.
French 6 of 4. I'm looking for a plus sign. French sharp 6 of 4. Where is a French augmented 6 of 4 going to lead us to? Well, if we were in the key of 4, the key of 4 is E minor, and this is a predominant chord, it would lead to the B. So it would lead to that B, and it leads to it. So, it's interesting to think about, well, how is this French 6 existing? We do look at French 6s as predominant chords, so I am going to list this as a French 6 of 4. Right? 'Cause, that's how it would be. Now, interestingly, the 5 of 4 is the global tonic. Now, the thing about this is he doesn't go back to the 5 of 4, he goes back to the global 1. Right? There's no D sharp here, it's a D natural. Note that there's a D natural. He does get, this is the first time we've actually had B minor in the piano like this, right? Now, so you can look at this French 6 and you can think about it a few ways. One way is that we are beginning to get to an illusion of E minor, which we'll get into. We'll talk about it a little bit. Another way is that you could see it as simply the use of French 6 of 4, since French 6 of 4 would go to the same triad you're going to in the home key. Using that chord is really just a chromatic heightening of the movement into the chord. And I say that because anytime you have the 5, you of course have the leading tone, right? And we're in minor, so the raised scale degree 7 coming up by half step into that note, right? And now we have the half step above it coming into that note. And if I take it off of this D, I've really kind of just got this, motion downward, just like I've been having with the C sharp, and now I've got. So you could think about it as maybe we're going to start to allude to this other key, and maybe we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to kind of think about what happens. We could also kind of think about it, maybe more in our melodic analyses and our, thinking of how Schenker just thinks of counterpoint rather than all the harmony there all the time. It might be a little bit more about the chromatic trajectory bringing us down. It's interesting how he uses this chord. It is absolutely the height of the line, and again, our expectations are something that, okay, we're gonna, we've been coming up the tonic triad. We're gonna get there. Here's the point in the line where we get to the 5/7. This is gonna be our big 5/7 to 1. But no, we're gonna do a French 6 of 4. So yes, the chromatic nature is like it's almost heightened into the chord, but our expectations of how harmony traditionally works in a moment like this are completely turned on their head. And we come back in and we're piano. Don't forget about dynamics. Right? We are marked down. The loudest point in the piece, we're not down to the softest, we're not down as low as we were, but we do have the D for the first time in that one chord. We just didn't come off of the 5. Here again, we come back to our 1/6. Excuse me, our 5/6. Right, again with the appoggiatura above of the G. Really kind of a bit of a heart-wrenching moment. Maybe in a reasonably subtle way, but in a way. Here again, we'll call this our 1/6 because we certainly get the B in the bar. A little bit less than we had it the last time. This time it's a little bit less than half the measure. Again, we do have a clear 5/6/4 because he does pull down into the A sharp. Again, the B acting as a suspension. I would want to mark the, I do want to mark it, so I mark that as a suspension and go through, kind of glancing over them now as we go quickly in class, but remember that marking all non-chord tones is a basic part of any analysis, okay? Coming into our 1, again, a strong 1 coming off of the D. Okay, we have the D clearly here. And this time, Again, we're coming into our 5/6, kind of no question about the minor 5/6. This time we land right on the C sharp on the chord. So we definitively have that clean F sharp minor here. One interesting thing about it, how might you refer to this E? What kind of a non-chord tone is the E? That's an escape tone. Yep, escape tone. Step into the dissonance, leap away from it. Okay, but it's a very nice one. It's a great example. That 5/6 again pulling into the 3. Notice that still we have that kind of that piano part is still doing what it does, right? That F sharp's still there. It's the piano part's changed very little, even though the voice part again we're pulling upward into this F sharp, right? Coming through the D, and now we're going to get to the highest note of this piece, the G. What chord is under the G? All right, so we've got another augmented 6th chord. All right. Here we have the C and the A sharp. Also down here, the C and the A sharp forming the augmented 6. And if you want to see it down here, C. This time the German, right? We got the E here. That's going to be the root. This is German of 4, so that E would be the tonic of the key it's moving to. And this time we have the G in there, and the G used up on top as our highest point. Not just so far, but as the highest point in the piece. We got up to that F sharp and we came back down. Again, if I look at my melodic analysis, I climbed up the tonic triad to this F sharp, then I came back down. I started down at the D again, and I'm climbing back up my tonic triad, right? My D, my F sharp, my B, my D, the next F sharp up, and I arrived at this G. I've now got the triple forte. Notice that this triple forte, not only is the piano arriving at it, but the voice is hitting that at the same time as the piano, so it's really, really strong arrival.
Wait, would you mark it German 6/4?
Oh, yes, sir. I didn't finish it out. And we'll do that. And now we'll look at the text and think about it in relationship to the text. So, we've had all this motion build up. It's the highest point in the piece, highest, loudest, most intense. We've got this German augmented 6th chord of 4. This is the end of the second stanza, and this is where the moon shows me my own form. Right? This is where he sees himself in this shadow figure in the house. He looks in the house where his love used to be, and he sees this man in just total torment, and it's him. And it's set as intensely as it could possibly be. And we sit there for a moment. I think he kind of stops. This moment kind of takes your breath, right? And it holds you there. We come back into the B. Now this time, the B are again our local one, so you can think about how that German augmented 6 is used. It's not the German augmented 6 of the key. It doesn't pull through a 5. Instead, it pulls back down into that chord. So how is it being used? Is it being used as a German, which would be a predominant, or is it being used as a local kind of just chromatic descent? How is it existing? Notice that we do have the D return, but notice as the third stanza begins, our melodic stance is just back to hovering around that F sharp. Where he's saying, my doppelganger. Look here at the second chord. This time, we have a little change, don't we? What do we get? Things start to intensify. Interestingly, we come back to the F sharp at first. Right? We come back to the piano B minor, and then right away things start to change. What do we have here in this bar?
It's like a diminished.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like a diminished. It looks like a five. What do we have? Like, remember we've talked about identifying Jennifer, right? What? We have a tritone. We literally just have a tritone. That's what we have. We have an F sharp and a C, right? Which, if that tritone existed, when we think of tritones, we think of them either existing as part of a 5/7 chord or part of a diminished 7 chord. If it's existing as part of a 5/7 chord, what would it be?
5/4/2.
It would be 5/4/2 of 6 in the key. If it's a 7 chord, if it's outlining the root and fifth of a 7th, how would we label it? So if we can see it as the 3rd and 7th as a 5/7 chord, in which case the label would be 5/4/2 of 6. If it was the root and 5th of a 7 fully diminished 7 chord, how would we label it? Seven diminished. Yeah, it's still a 6, but I'm looking for you guys. It seemed like you need to practice your inversions, to be frankly honest with you. That's what I'm looking for here. 7 diminished.
6/4.
Yeah, 6/4 actually would work. I mean, if I was thinking of fully diminished 7, then it would be 4/3, but that, I'll buy that. So, I'll put those in because that's what it would function as. Yet we just have this standing, right? It's just, all of a sudden we just have this F sharp and C. Again, we just have 2 notes. It forms an interval we haven't had yet, right? It forms this like diminished 5th by itself, which is empty. It doesn't go to either of those places in any way, shape, or form, right? So I'm going to put it in because we want to practice seeing it. We also want to identify these things. But what it comes out to is, it looks to me like we're coming out to another one of these like undefined 5/6/4s. And how we might tend to think about this chord is simply just a chromatic trajectory upward.
I mean, is it necessary to analyze the C chord right there? If I just
No. I would say in many ways, like if we just looked at it, it seems like more than anything, it's just this chromatic change. Now, one thing though, I will backtrack to it slightly and say, are people familiar with common tone diminished sevenths?
Yeah.
Okay, what is a common tone diminished seventh?
It's a diminished word that uses it to go somewhere else.
That's a respelling. Common tone diminished seventh? Anybody? It's a diminished seventh chord which moves to a chord that its root, the root of the chord it moves to, is one of the chord tones in the fully diminished seventh chord. So in this case, like an F sharp fully diminished seventh, or an F sharp diminished, moving to an F sharp.
Oh, that's how that F sharp.
Right, exactly. So it's a diminished chord that moves to a triad, one of whose the root of which is one of the chord tones of the diminished seventh.
Oh.
Okay, that's a common tone diminished seventh.
So this is a common tone.
Right. So this would be, if I took F sharp, fully diminished seventh, right, and used it to get to F sharp, or used it to get to A, or used it to get to C, that's a common tone diminished seventh. Okay. The root of the chord it goes to is one of the members of that diminished chord. And so one way we could define this, because we're kind of saying, boy, it would be this and this and this and this. One thing that is, if I wanted to consider it a diminished chord, because that's kind of what it's outlining, I could, possibly say that's a common tone diminished seventh moving into that action. Okay. coming back again to our 3.
Is that manipulating? You just write CT.
Yes, yep, CT diminished 7th. That's common tone diminished 7th. Absolutely, yep. So that you're not trying to come up with some function, well, it can kind of be this, but it doesn't go there. It's a common tone diminished 7th. That it shares a tone with the root of the chord it's moving.
Okay.
Okay. This time, one interesting thing to see here as we look at it, this is a clearly defined 3. We do have all the chord tones, D, F sharp, and A. More so than we've had before. And now it goes, of course, exactly where we expect. Where do we move to? What chord do we have here? A D sharp minor. Right? So D sharp minor, maybe we'll just say that for now. Right? We're locally, our global key is B minor. We've been in B minor. Are there any ways we could think about relating D sharp minor? If I said, I want you to tell me how D sharp minor is related to B minor, you're near the tracks. Think it out.
Median relationship of the relative major.
Good. It's the median of the relative major.
Yeah, we've done that. Oh.
Right. It's the median, and it's not a chromatic median. It's the median. It's the third scale. It's the 3 chord of B. Huh.
We did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's the 3. That's the closest. If I'm going to try to sit here and relate it, that's my best way to think about it. Is it's like it's the 3 of the parallel major. So I'll put for now. I'm going to put here 3 of. I'm going to put B. I don't want to put a capital Roman numeral 1. I wouldn't like it. Right, so I'm going to kind of put that note there for a minute. Let's think about it. What do we have here?
Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, it was median of the,
It's the median of the parallel major. Yeah. And the next bar.
Oh, it's in A sharp major.
It is A sharp major.
Oh. It's like B flat major. In harmonic.
Is that a globally or locally related chord?
Locally.
Locally. Very locally.
Yeah.
What is it locally?
The G sharp.
It's 5 of the D sharp. Right? A sharp major is 5 of D sharp. You don't see a lot of A sharp majors out there on the streets these days. Right? You get the, but it's just, just think it out. Like you see the double sharp and you say, oh man, this is going to be something weird. It's the 5. Right? It's just an A sharp major chord. And for now, let's put, can I put 5 of 3 of B for a minute? And what do we have here? Okay, so again, I have that 3 of the parallel major, right? And we're starting to, you might notice that we're starting to I almost use the word ghost around the parallel major a little bit, which is pun not intended. And then we have same thing, the 5, right? The 5 of 3, if we're thinking of it in the parallel major, with the global tonic working as an appoggiatura above. A moment not to be missed. And in the following bar,
It's like diminished.
This is G major?
No.
No. I thought that's what someone said.
It's an E sharp diminish. No.
Amberly? German. German. Of the actual key of B. This is we are at the global relationship here. Here's our German, right? Here's the G natural pulling down into the F sharp. Here's the E sharp pulling upward into the F sharp. There's your augmented sixth. In fact, rather clearly defined. You know, here in this one, this is pretty muddy voicing, right? Here it's actually quite clear. You know, there's the tonic note of the key. There's the minor third above it, right? If we took out the E sharp, you have a minor four. You have the 4-6-5, right? Remember that a German augmented sixth is like minor 4-6-5 with a raised root. And that's what's happening here. German augmented sixth, and German augmented sixth we know kind of most commonly moves to 1-6-4, and that's exactly what it does here. And it is a clear 1-6-4. There is nothing ambiguous about it. There's no missing note. It's got, you know, a big fat fifth, you know, 5 in the bottom. It's a very, very clear 1-6-4. This is setting the final line is what stops here. Just before that German augmented sixth, we kind of left, you know, that has tortured me here in this spot. We get the German augmented sixth. You know, we're at the F sharp, which is no longer our highest point. Remember, we had that G, so in a way, our main melodic line is kind of starting to pull back downward. Okay. I mean, we've certainly come up to it. You know, we had this F sharp, and the F sharp, this was the most distant place that we've gone. This kind of local tonicization of D sharp minor, which we didn't necessarily expect. There's our 1-6-4. Our 1-6-4 remains, and again, we kind of have a clear, you know, if I notice my melodic stance over the next few bars, F sharp, through to E, down to the D, through the C sharp, and finally into the B. These last couple of bars are going to pull right down my tonic triad, downward into the B. I have my 1-6-4. We already took a look at the melodies pulling downward into the B. You know, what do we go through here? What would this? How could you define this?
2 half to diminish 6-5 over a title.
Excellent. 2 half diminished 6-5, and I'll kind of put a little line in there. Sorry, I'm doing the best I can with the computer here. And you know, we want to maybe mark that this is occurring over a dominant pedal, you know, dom ped, or I can certainly kind of circle that note and mark it pedal. It is the 2-6-5, but then we eventually do get into 5-7. So I mean, it's gone, right? The ambiguity's gone. Everything's clear now. We had a German augmented sixth that went to a 1-6-4 in the key, that went to a 2-6-5 into 5-7. The melodic line pulled down, scale degree 5-4-3-2-1, and we arrive at a B, and it's a clear B. I've got B, F sharp, B, D, F sharp, B. Nothing could be questionable except that we're not quite done yet. So we get to that B. Now, you might consider the rest of this an extension from that B, but let's look at this extension because there's some stuff in it. Within this extension, we actually come back to our opening motive. We get to our 5-6 and our hollowed out 5-6. We get to our hollowed out 1-6. We haven't had this really since the introduction, or we're missing that B. It's gone again. And now, what do we have here? The Neapolitan, right? The flat 2. I'm going to call it flat 2, but you can certainly call it Neapolitan. I have my flat 2. Again, what I'm going to see is a linear descent from D to C natural to B. That's the same thing that we saw here at the French 6, and the same thing we saw here at the German 6. But this time it's presented as a flat 2 chord. Now, where do we expect flat 2 chord to move to? 2 is a 2 is a 2 is a 2 is a 2. It's a predominant chord. Where does it go instead?
Well, let's do 5.
5 4.
It goes to the 5 7 4 instead of 5 7 4, followed by 4 6 4. I don't know why I put a 6 4. Followed by a 4 6 4. What does it end on?
It's a Picardy.
Major 1. Or is it turning into the 5?
Right.
The 4, right? I mean, I'll give it to you that maybe it's some kind of Picardy third. The one that we finally have this D sharp inside of it, but yet
Or, well, since
French augmented 6
Right.
of 4 leading into a chord that would have gone to the 4 had it been changed. German augmented 6 of 4 leading into that would have been changed, right?
but
And then
since
we pull down this E that sits here. It is the 7 over the 5s, but it sits and it comes down, and then we almost set up this, we do set up this 5 7 4 to a 4 6 4. You know, and I don't know, you can think about how you hear that. Many of you are probably going to hear that last chord is really the Picardy of 1, and yet he insinuates at a key that, is it there or not?
well, yeah, because
You know, is the key there or not? What's the poem about?
is the man there?
Yeah.
Right? You know,
Yeah.
it's really like there's almost like another world behind this one that maybe we're not quite seeing. It's really quite genius. You know, on one level,
He's kind of a stalker too. Like he's visiting the house after she already left. So maybe he's.
well, I mean, you know, you can think about what maybe happened. You know,
I
to
want to know
her.
the backstory.
You know, I mean, he's seeing himself tortured in that place, in that spot. You know, I mean, it's really quite something. You know, I could even think about the fact that the G that I pull into that is working as part of the German augmented 6, which is of the 4. It's a G, which would set as the 3 of that key, and you know, the end. It's really so interesting. You know, this flat 2 in that key is 6. So it's even like a legit pivot. That's a technical term. You know, we have this 2 chords that doesn't quite end up functioning like, I mean, you can look at it's parallel octaves anyways, blah, 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 but they're orchestrational. You know, you can use the Neapolitan as a pivot. It's a predominant chord. You know, so it's Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was very excited about that. But definitely, you can use the Neapolitan as a very cool pivot. You know, that it's 2, and then it becomes a predominant in another key, and you know, maybe there's another stanza to this that in E minor we don't really know, but it's kind of alluded to in this
Maybe he just didn't finish
really
it.
interesting way.
It's like, I can understand.
All right, now that we've got analysis, and again, you can see where we talk about the ambiguity of it. There's a lot of local ambiguity. There's hollow chords. Some things aren't clearly defined. There's chords that don't go where we expect them to go. There's pitches that don't quite act as we expect them to act. So all the things that Stein talked about are right here. Again, we can define the form in this piece by doing this analysis. We can also kind of layer our melodic analysis into it and think about how the melody exists. We can kind of see how we dealt with the stanzas that way. We can, again, think about the piece. It is a through-composed song. It is not strophic. Each stanza is dealt with in its own way, even though we do have a lot of repetitive material on the piano. Now that we've looked at it, let's listen again. And I'm sorry, it is a step down, but, you know. Oh, did I close it? You guys just want to watch some Sesame Street videos?
Yeah.
Phenomena?
That's probably better.
The harmonic ambiguity of phenomena.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say
All right, let's give it another listen. Let's turn that back down. It's actually very difficult to find the original key. It's Dietrich Fischer discount. Look, it's hard to find any original. All baritones do it now, so it's all there. Just floating around that, well, E the whole time. The F sharp there. Little vocal break. Rest of the stanza. Start to get that kind of anguished tone. A little bit more of the tonic pitch. Right, a little bit more definitive. Right here we're going to start climbing up that tonic triad. First time that full chord's there.
Der Mond zeigt mir meine eigene Gestalt. Du Doppelgänger, du bleicher Geselle, was hältst du nach mein Liebesleid, das mich bequält auf dieser Stelle? So manche Nacht in
In that recording. Very, very interesting. You know, notice that we do end on the B major, and it's the B major that was alluded to here, which is why I kept putting in that 3 of B, right? I think that's very, very a wonderful spot. All right, so I wanted to see what we got to tonight. So what your assignment is going to be, so that you know, I'm going to have you analyze the Hugo Wolf song that is the next thing in the packet. The recording that I'm going to give you is in the key. Believe me, look, this is the closest one I could find. It's going to be through the Naxos collection, the library collection, okay, that you all should have access to. It's a really short song. So I'm going to suggest you start by listening to it a few times. I'm going to simply tell you that I want you to do a harmonic analysis of it. Okay, meaning, what we just did, I want you to go through, I want you to do come on now, Justin. I want you to do hang in, buddy. You got 5 minutes left. I want you to do a full Roman numeral analysis, okay, of the whole thing. I'm not going to say anything about the key. I want you to. That's part of what you're going to figure out. Okay. I want you to. I'm not going to require you to do any melodic reduction in particular, but if you think it's something that supports your analysis, that's now something that you have as part of your analysis tool. I do want to see a harmonic analysis of this piece done. From there, based on your findings in that harmonic analysis, I want you to write me a circa 2-page paper. Are you serious? 2 pages?
2 pages. It's the content.
You want to hear 4? 6? I can keep going. There's plenty to say about this. 2 pages. It's like ashamedly small on my part. A 2-page paper, minimum, to give me. Now that doesn't include, you might want to make any kind of charts or graphs or diagrams. All of that's always great. Okay, be a little bit open. What I'm requiring is a full harmonic analysis, and then 2 pages talking to me about the piece. Okay, how are the relationships there? I will have this posted. Honestly, it's probably not going to get posted until tomorrow afternoon, early evening kind of thing. Okay, but it will be this piece, and you will have to do a Roman numeral analysis of it. You have at least 1 score to get started. I'll post a clean copy of the score. I'll put the link up for the recording, and I'll give you a few questions that I want you to think about. One of those questions is going to be, what is the key area of this piece? And, how does the composer deal with the concept of ambiguity? Is it important to the work? Yes, it's important. The things that we've been talking about, the conversations of ambiguity that we've been talking about, how do they apply here? How does the piece fall out? What's the form? How does it relate to the text? All of the questions that we talk about in class, it's your time to talk about them now. Okay? The text is right here on the second page. Or the page just after it. I actually gave you the original was in Spanish. There was then a German translation that Wolf set. I put the last line in parentheses because he repeated it, wasn't originally repeated in the original text. And then I give you, a reasonably decent English translation thereof. Okay. So you should be relating. How does the piece relate to the text? How does the form relate to the text? What are the relationships of key areas across the piece? All the things that we talk about. Okay. Basically, what I want you to really do in that paper, teach me about the piece. Right? So again, try to avoid doing this happened, and this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then measure 3, this happened, and then this. This is the piece, this is what the piece is about. Here's the form of the work, here's how it's set up, here's the way it relates to the text, here's the relationships that occur, here's how ambiguity is an important part of this piece. An important part of this piece. Okay? All these things that we've been talking about. All right, it's a short work, but it's a really cool work. So I hope that you enjoy looking through it. I think it's a really nice piece. Okay, have a lovely week. I'll see you next week. In fact, maybe I'll sit down and do it right.
I feel just as ambivalent to it as I haven't seen this last. I feel as ambivalent as the characters within it. Here you go.
Are you working for Fred tonight?